Chapter 80. The Fifth Cubicle in the Toilet. When did the views surpass 20,000? At the beginning of the live stream, I remember seeing only 10 people in the room. Chen Ge raised the phone up to the ceiling, but the signal was still weak. The chat was lagging badly. One moment he could not even load a single comment, but suddenly he would be overwhelmed by a ton. He could barely make sense of anything. 20,000 views but less than 5,000 followers. This ratio is a bit lacking. Chen Ge used his phone to snap pictures of the few pieces of paper that had been used in the pen spirit game. He then turned the camera to capture the broken ballpoint pen that sat in the middle of the chair. Dear viewers, can you see this? I have played the pen spirit game until the pen itself committed suicide. Aren't you going to follow me? Do you know how much I'm risking being here? An unknown host like myself, without equipment or a team. I'm here all alone, threading the line of danger. I know my equipment is not that great, and I can't even interact with you in chat, but I can lead you into the most authentic supernatural experience. This is definitely one of a kind and cannot be copied. After giving his speech, the number of followers started to rise. For Chen Ge, he was merely completing the Black Phone's mission, but it was a different concern from the viewer's perspective, especially in comparison to Qin Guang's livestream. Even though Chen Ge was lacking in terms of equipment, his content was inimitable, whether from the aspect of danger or spectacle. The key to a successful livestream was none other than freshness and creativity. Qin Guang's team relied on a finished script, and they even had an actor to play the part. However, no matter how realistic the actor's acting was, it would appear forced. However, Chen Ge's content was very different. Even Chen Ge himself did not know what would happen next. Thank you for your support. That was the pen spirit game. Please, do not try this at home. All right, now we shall move on to the next location. Looking at the popularity that was still rising, Chen Ge was overjoyed. In any case, since he had to finish these missions dispensed by the Black Phone, why not make use of them fully and convert them into popularity? I wonder what is happening inside the chat room, but a rising popularity is a good thing. At least my risk of coming here tonight is not going to waste. The easy completion of the first side mission gave Chen Ge a boost of confidence. He put on his raincoat and left the dormitory. He had done everything he could there, so there was no point in staying. There are 3 side missions left: the sealed classroom, the deep well, and the fifth cubicle in the toilet. The fifth cubicle in the toilet appeared to be inside the education block. Chen Ge had been to the dormitory's toilets, and they only had 4 cubicles. If the office building's layout was similar to the dormitories, then only the education block's toilets fit the mission description. Chen Ge glanced at his phone. He had arrived at Muang High School at 8 p.m. Technically, the pen spirit game should not have taken too long, but the time showed that it was now almost 9 p.m. There are 3 hours left until midnight. 1 hour for each mission should be fine. Chen Ge's plan was to finish all the side missions as soon as possible and find a corner to hide in until dawn arrived. When he stood before the education block again, Chen Ge had a weird feeling that the thing that sat before him was not an abandoned building, but a giant coffin that housed plenty of dead bodies. The side mission did not specify the exact location of the toilet. There are 3 stories to this block, and this means that any one of the toilets on the 3 levels could be my mission location. Chen Ge turned on his flashlight and entered the building. Passing through empty classrooms at night caused Chen Ge's skin to crawl. He was afraid that once he turned, he would see something that shouldn't exist inside the classroom. He rushed toward the end of the corridor and entered the first floor's toilet. The place was spared from the fire, and the interior remained the same as it was several years ago. The flooring was cracked and weeds could be seen peeking through the cracks. There were a brownish stain on the wall, and the sole window in the room was creaking eerily. Focus on the mission. There's no time to waste. All of the toilets inside the education block had 6 cubicles. Years of abandonment meant that most of cubicle doors were broken, and Chen Ge could look into the cubicles without even opening the door. With the mallet in his hand, Chen Ge walked past the 6 cubicles. The earlier 4 cubicles had nothing wrong about them, but the 5th and 6th cubicles caught his attention. The doors to these 2 cubicles were shut, and with a slight push, Chen Ge realized with a start that they were locked. Normally, the door is locked only because someone is occupying the cubicle. However, that could not be true here. The school has been abandoned for 3 years already. Even if something is occupying the cubicles, it cannot be human. In any case, I'd better take a closer look. Chen Ge smashed at the 6th door with his mallet, and the door fell open. Before Chen Ge could react, several dark shadows charged at him. What is that? He jumped back to avoid them. He shone his flashlight at his assailant, and Chen Ge was embarrassed to realize it was merely the cleaning equipment. After recovering from the fake scare, Chen Ge picked the mops and brooms off the floor and shoved them back into the cubicle. He found the same thing in the next cubicle. All 6 of the cubicles on the first floor were normal, which meant that his mission venue was on another floor. After exiting the toilet, Chen Ge looked over his shoulder with uncertainty. The cubicle doors creaked on their hinges like people waving at him. This would create quite a scary effect inside the haunted house. Chen Ge made a mental note to remember this for the future and headed up the stairs to the 2nd floor. It had the same layout as the 1st floor toilet, but the window was boarded up. Once Chen Ge stepped into the space, he felt weirdly pressured. This should be the place then. Probably because the window was boarded up, the toilet was better preserved than the 1st floor one. There was not much change compared to how it was several years ago. He walked to the 1st cubicle, and before even pushing the door open, he heard footsteps coming from the corridor outside. However, due to the interruption from the rain, he could not really tell for sure. Is someone running in the corridor? He hid in a corner of the toilet and raised his mallet in a guarded posture in case someone decided to rush into the room. Nothing like that happened. As time moves toward midnight, the school is slowly starting to change, like it is coming alive. Looks like I will need to pick up my pace. Chen Ge stopped hesitating and pushed open the first 4 cubicles in one go. When he stood before the 5th cubicle, the footsteps in the corridor started again, and he heard it clearly this time. There were 2 sets of footsteps. The mission description for the 5th cubicle in the toilet stated that a red shadow would appear at midnight. Was that it? Chapter 81. Children. However, the mission was described in first person, stating that someone hid themselves in the 5th cubicle to capture the red shadow that appeared at midnight. However, what happened next was an unknown, leaving Chen Ge plenty of room to imagine. He switched off the flashlight and thought to himself. The mission states that a red shadow will appear in the toilet at midnight, but the footsteps clearly show that there were 2 people walking side by side. Could it be that the red shadow has found a new friend in the years that it was trapped in this abandoned school? The footsteps were slowly approaching the 2nd floor toilet. Following the mission requirement, Chen Ge should hide inside the 5th cubicle, but Chen Ge felt that was too dangerous. He would have effectively trapped himself. Perhaps I should act more proactively. Chen Ge hid behind the toilet door, and no matter who it was, he would start by whacking them on their head. Chen Ge took a deep breath before holding it in and raising the mallet above his head. The footsteps became clearer and clearer. It sounded like 2 individuals running side by side. They were dangerously close to the 2nd floor bathroom. The wait was real torture for Chen Ge. He had no idea what was outside and had even less of a clue what they were planning to do. All he could do was make himself as silent as possible. Several seconds later, the footsteps finally stopped before the toilet entrance. Here they come. Chen Ge's hand that gripped the mallet had started to sweat, and his heart was racing at an impossible rate. The storm continued to brew outside, and the rain seeped into the room, wetting the toilet floor. Where are they? Chen Ge turned to look over his shoulder. There were no human faces staring down at him like he had expected. His patience was wearing thin. With one hand on the doorknob, he prepared to lean out to take a look. However, before he could do that, a flash of lightning tore apart the sky, and utilizing the temporary brightness, Chen Ge saw 2 shadows reflected on the toilet floor. They're standing at the entrance. His body froze, and since his flashlight had already been switched off, he could see nothing in the darkness of the toilet. The shadows were short, like 2 children. He did not dare to let his guard down. After waiting for several seconds, the footsteps resumed. However, unlike what he had expected, the owners of the footstep did not enter the toilet, but went down the staircase next to it and down to the 1st floor. Leaving just like that? Chen Ge slowly moved out from behind the door. He turned to look at the entrance, and there was nothing there. The thing that stood at the door earlier felt like two children. This is different from the red shadow described by the black phone. Is this because too much time has passed since then, or did my early arrival at the school mess up the schedule? Chen Ge could not figure out the answer. Switching the flashlight back on, Chen Ge wandered over to the fifth cubicle. Regardless, he had to inspect the cubicle to see whether it was the actual mission venue. The door opened to reveal an old, yet completely normal space. Based on the situation thus far, the mission venue should be in the third-floor toilet. The two children from earlier have run down to the first floor, so this is the perfect chance. Chen Ge turned to walk out the toilet. Before he reached the threshold, his phone rang. It was an unknown caller. Whose number is this? Chen Ge did not have many friends, and the few he had would not normally contact him. After a brief hesitation, Chen Ge retreated to the corner and exited the live stream to answer the phone. Hello? Are you Ru Hui's classmate? I hear you came across a strange boy whom you suspect is suffering from a psychological problem. The voice on the other end of the phone had a gravity to it. It exuded an air of confidence. I did? And you are? I am Ru Hui's father. He-san did mention giving Chen Ge's phone number to Gao Ru Hui earlier. Looks like this senior of his did things with efficiency. Do you mind telling me about the boy in greater detail? Psychological illness is not unlike a venom inside one's body. If one does not remove it as soon as possible, it might ruin that boy's future. Gao Ru Hui's father was familiar with the potential danger of psychological problems. From his perspective, a psychological illness could be more dangerous than many physical illnesses. There is this boy about 7 or 8. He's physically fine, but he appears to have withdrawn from the world. He refuses to interact with others and is afraid of sunlight. Are there any other symptoms? If possible, can you give me them in detail? I met this boy at the entrance of a haunted house park attraction. His aunt told me that the boy likes to spend time inside haunted houses. Normal emotions that one should experience inside a haunted house, like fear and anxiety, were missing from the boy. In fact, he appeared to be more comfortable in the darkness than under the sunlight. It gave me the impression that darkened corners give him a sense of security. Chen Ge voiced the speculation that he had. If he had not met the child in person, he would not have believed that such a curious boy existed. A boy of 7 or 8 who likes to visit haunted houses and doesn't feel afraid? Yes, the boy even showed interest in the actor who was in a dead person's makeup. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds. If it is just a lack of fear, it could be autism, which could be responsible for the damage to the amygdala of his brain. I'm sorry, but I don't think I understand. To put it simply, the amygdala is the central nervous system where memory is processed and stored. It is also responsible for the production of emotions like rage and fear. If one's amygdala is damaged, even if facing a lion or viper, one wouldn't be afraid, much less being scared inside a haunted house. Gao Ru Hui's father had a point, but Chen Ge still felt the description did not quite fit Fan Yu's conditions. Dr. Gao, it is by no means that the boy is not afraid of anything. For one, he is afraid of sunlight and hates walking under the sun. Also, he was not only unafraid of the haunted house, he liked the environment inside it. It felt like he was a completely different boy inside and outside of the haunted house. Chen Ge thought about it before adding, he was completely silent when he was outside the haunted house and refused to have interaction with others, but he was energized when inside the haunted house. When it was time to leave, his refusal to leave was vehement, and I saw him injure his aunt with my own eyes. Listening to your description, it might also be a sign of bipolar disorder, highly destructive and irrational when angered, but highly individualistic and retreats into his own world when depressed. Teacher Gao shared his analysis with Chen Ge. But one point still eludes me. Patients with bipolar disorder might be triggered at any given moment, and there shouldn't be a clear trigger like being inside or outside a haunted house. My personal opinion is that since the boy's attitude change is related to haunted houses, then the source of his problem should be related to a haunted house as well. Did he suffer from any trauma inside a haunted house when he was young? Or did his parents work at a haunted house? After hearing the analysis from Gao Rushue's father, a speculation appeared in Chen Ge's mind. The boy's changes in personality happened inside his haunted house, and the biggest difference his haunted house had compared to others was that his haunted house was really haunted.